Welcome to Drive Your Journey. I'm your host, Fred Arnold, and in this show, we want to help bring ideas, thoughts, and inspiration to help drive you to a better journey tomorrow. And today, I've got a great guest, Alex Urbina. Alex Urbina is a life coach, personal friend of mine. But I just want to read one thing. Alex is a veteran when it comes to human potential, helping thousands of people, myself included, discover your own personal power. And you love transformational trainings for teens, for adults, for parents. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
And we're going to talk today about one of my favorite topics, is how to connect with your teenage child.
Yeah, you know, a lot of times when people think of connecting or creating a connection with their children, a lot of times they think of the things to do, like a doingness, like doing things together, like washing dishes or going to the movies. But connection is really about who you're being and allowing yourself to be in the present moment with your son or daughter. And the best way to connect really is through eye contact. So if you and your daughter or your son are willing to be vulnerable and allow yourselves to be uncomfortable in the beginning and make constant eye contact with each other, there starts to become some kind of an energy force and a connection. I think spiritually you connect with them, and there's a bond of trust, I think, that's built.
Yeah.
So when I think of connection, I really think of spending quality, intimate time together where you guys are validating each other with your eyes. I think that's the most powerful connection we can make to our kids.
I love the word trust. You taught me one time, because we had this conversation many times, right? I have a 15-year-old daughter, and I said, how do I show up? How do I want to show up better? And you said to me, sometimes I'll go to a meeting before you see a client. You'll just sit in the parking lot and you'll decide who you want to be. And I thought that was very profound. Share more of that with those watching.
I actually did it before I walked in. I just stopped at the door. I spent about 20 seconds with my eyes closed, getting clear about who I want to be when I walk into this place. Not what I'm going to do or what I'm going to say, but more about who I get to be. And when we talk about ways of being, it's like be more loving, vulnerable, connected, inspiring. And when you focus more on who you get to be, it really frees you up to be in the present moment and just be authentic, rather than what am I going to say and all those kinds of fears that really kind of come up and creep up in our mind.
Yeah, they really do. So my fourth daughter, I was raising as a single dad on my own, and I remember early on you changed my perspective where we weren't really connecting like I'd like us to. And I remember she dropped a big, like a bowl of spaghetti. And she looked at me and froze, like, am I going to get yelled at?
Right.
And I just go, that's awesome. She looked at me like, huh? Go get the dogs.
Where did my dad go?
Yeah. I go, that's awesome. And she looked at me like, huh? And sometimes breaking who maybe you were taught to be or you thought you should be might allow a more clear connection with your child.
What I love most about that story is that instead of being reactive, you caught yourself in that moment.
I had to catch myself, though.
And that's the biggest part of being conscious and mindful is you catch yourself and not be reactive, and then you created a proactive choice to show up in a different way, which probably shocked her a little bit, right? But I think it's refreshing for our kids to see that mom and dad get to keep figuring out how to reinvent ourselves in our parenting and not show up the same traditional way that we've always been, which is, reactive or
authoritative,
disappointed, just real quick, all of a sudden, we're just kind of agitated all the time. What would it look like if all of a sudden I put a different smile on my face, had a different response? I created an opening for it to be okay to make a mistake or to spill something in my home and not make you bad and wrong because it happened.
Or laugh at yourself.
Yeah, absolutely, and just be more playful.
Yeah, I love that. Let's talk about something a good friend Dave was sharing with me. He goes, yeah, my son, he kind of just grunted for a couple years. I'm sure you experienced that with 4 kids.
Yeah, absolutely. When it comes to sons, my son didn't necessarily grunt. He was just really quiet. So a lot of times I had to probe, right, with asking open-ended questions to get him to open up. And it's really an art form to get teenagers to open up and share, because by virtue, they're trying to separate themselves to figure out who they are. to find their own power, to discover their own wings. And
So it really has nothing to do with you.
it's absolutely 100% not to do anything with you.
Yeah, it has
it's
to do
more,
with them.
It's more an organic way of growing up. And so, but it's very easy as a dad or mom to take it personal and to start questioning whether, we've lost connection with them or if the bond is broken. But it's really just, them trying to figure out who they are. But yeah, I've also had that before. And it's an opportunity to be creative, to ask open-ended questions, to get them to see which one's going to crack him open to start that dialogue.
Yeah. So again, share another story that Alex had helped me with some time back. I was getting ready to do my first Ironman race, and it was in Canada. And we were having a conversation one day, and I said, well, you mentioned to me, why don't you ask your kids for advice on the race? Because I was telling you how nervous I was, and my coach Gerardo is going to come on, my Ironman coach, in a little bit. But you said, ask them advice on how to calm your nervousness. So I took them to dinner, and I said, hey, will you give me some? And I got some of the most brilliant answers. And sometimes allowing your kids to give you advice not only opens up some great information, but allows them to share their genius with you and what they're learning with their experiences.
Absolutely. And you gave them an opportunity to be heard. You gave them an opportunity to actually have a voice. And you being willing to create that opening to hear their opinions and hear their insight really gave them a huge gift. I think they're probably going to carry with them for a lifetime.
Yeah, well,
because how many parents really turn to their kid, or their son or daughter and say, hey, what do you think? Yeah. And I think it's refreshing for them on their side to really allow themselves to contribute.
Yeah, when we moved into the house, asked, hey, what color should we put the walls?
Nice, yeah.
And then my daughter went into DIY, well, anyhow, she went into that mode, TV mode, and says, yeah, well, let me show you this. And then we got a bond of watching that show together.
But isn't it cool to sit back and watch her step into that role and just
step into her unique, loving being?
And create and being creative, and what an amazing opportunity for you to create that space for her to own that, to take ownership of the home and decorating and just owning it all.
When we come back, I want to talk on another segment about helping us, the parents, get into that mode and being able to ask the right questions. Will you come back to the show?
Absolutely, for sure.
Yeah,
anytime.
Love that. Those that want to reach out to you, get your book?
Yeah, The Inspirational Parent.
Yes.
Yeah.
How can they get that?
Just go on Amazon and type in The Inspirational Parent, or go to alexurbina.com. All my information's there.
And your information contact if they want to have you coach them. And now let's make it clear, it's not coaching your child. Typically, it's the two of you or the parent, because the children are just reacting the way we are.
Yeah, in 20 years of working with teenagers and parents, a lot of times parents will give me their kid and say, here, fix my kid. And there's really nothing wrong with your son or daughter. However, their behaviors and their behavior patterns are just a byproduct of your parenting. But if I can get parents to be humble enough to really be willing to look at that, make some course corrections, it all of a sudden starts to show up different in your son or daughter. Yeah.
Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
I appreciate it.
I appreciate you.
Absolutely.
All right, thank
Absolutely. We're going to jump to a quick break, and we'll be right back.